welcome to Friday, April 3rd. Oh my gosh, I kicked off School Library Month. Let's start back. We're reining it back in, y'all. Hello and welcome to April 3rd's Adobe Live, celebrating School Library Month with two of the most fabulous school librarians I know in the world. We are joined today by Celeste Lopez. Hello, Celeste, and Betsy.
Hello, everybody from South Texas.
Hello. If you are joining us and you are a school librarian, welcome. Special love to you this month. Drop us some love over in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from. And to all of our educators in ACE community and our larger Adobe world and family, we are so thankful you're here, and hopefully you can get some insights into the fabulous workings of school librarianship. I'm going to kick us off just like to kind of set the stage for us, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of a panel Q&A type situation with Celeste and Betsy. And then they've got the coolest templates, project ideas, things to do with your own kids, with your teachers, build those instructional partnerships in just a minute. But you know, the school libraries are one of the most extraordinary spaces in education. They're where that quiet kid finds their voice through a graphic novel, where a student who's never been asked what they think gets handed a microphone. We're going to hear about that in a minute, or a camera, or a blank canvas, and realizes they have something worth saying. We don't grade them, we get to love on them. And school libraries have shifted and shaped themselves over the years, where they're not just rooms full of books, although books really matter too, y'all. They're creative hubs, safe havens, they're launch pads. They're the place where students learn that their stories are worth telling and that they have lots of tools to help them do that. And at the center of every great school library is a librarian who makes all of that possible. So school librarians are the connectors, the collaborators, the champions, and more often than anyone realizes, the most creative educators in the building. They partner with teachers, design experiences that bring learning to life. They create the conditions for students to explore, experiment, and express themselves in ways that no other space in the school quite hits the same way. When creativity lives in the library, something shifts. We've all seen it. We've all seen that in action. I'm excited to see that example from Celeste and Betsy today. Students don't just consume information, they really create with it. They design and they build, and they see themselves as more. They see themselves as makers and storytellers, not just learners. And that changes everything. How they see the library, how they see the school, and most importantly, how they see themselves. And that's really why we do what we do for the students. And that's the power of a school library led by a librarian who believes in what's possible. And that is exactly what today is about. And so welcome everyone to Adobe Express for Education's Adobe Live, or I guess Jacob would want me to say Adobe Live Education Edition. But we are so grateful to our Adobe Live partners and letting us have this opportunity to share and shed light on the important work that librarians and libraries are doing for students, and especially around creative expression. But I am Martha Bongiorno. If we have not met before, I have come to Adobe Express for Education as a previous school librarian. So I was actually a librarian for 15 years in the state of Georgia. So everything I just described, I've lived it, and I've been able to know these two fabulous humans next to me for years. I never know when we meet each other, because you meet everyone online nowadays. And we were supposed to be joined also by Amanda Hunt, who has had some things come up last minute, but she did record something for us. So we'll share a little bit of her story in just a minute as well. But I have launched the first ever student-led makerspace in the state of Georgia. I've advocated fiercely for libraries and leadership roles with GLMA, AASL, and at our Capitol for years. And I've seen firsthand how creativity can transform the library and how it can be for students when we put them at the center of what we do. So if you didn't know, April is School Library Month. Let's give some shout out. Woo-hoo. I see some Claudio. Claudio's dropping some like celebratory comments over in the chat. Thank you so much seeing you, Claudio, and Deb, who is a fellow high school librarian. I see Timothy. Welcome, 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 friends. And I want you to give a big warm welcome officially to the phenomenal librarians we have on the call today. So I'm going to hand it over to Celeste and Betsy to introduce yourselves. Celeste, let's go with you first, friend.
Wonderful. Hello, everybody. I am a little old librarian from the southernmost tip of Texas, McAllen, Texas. I am a newly minted middle school librarian. I was in elementary for 6 years and then crossed over into middle school. So I currently serve 6th through 8th grade students and loving every minute.
Nice.
Oh, I took that route too. I went from elementary to secondary, and it was a big jump.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome, Celeste. And Betsy, how are you today?
Great. Thanks, Martha. And so nice to see you both, Celeste. It is really great to see you online. I haven't seen both of these fabulous library media specialists since the summer. So that's what I love about this community. But I'm here in the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm in Redwood City, where I'm the library media specialist. And I come from the classroom. So I originally taught English, and then I was always yearbook journalism advisor. And then I made my way through the digital arts classroom and ultimately found my home here in the Library Media Center, where it's a perfect marriage of all the things that we love: storytelling through digital tools, honoring books and what they bring to us, but also really creating a place for students to be in community and a place to uplift our teachers, which is what I'll talk about in a little bit. So, again, thanks for having me.
I love how you both touch on something so critical for school librarians is we touch, I say we because I will always consider myself one of us, but you touch every single human being in that building. It's one of the few roles in a school building that touches the lives and impacts every single student, educator, para, front office staff, parent, whatever role that they play is something that you have a hand in. So before we get into our panelist questions to kick us off today, I'm curious, what's one sentence that you could give me and our audience today about what makes your library special? Like what just like fills you with joy about your library?
Well, I'll chime in right now, and it's the students that come and spend their free periods here with me. I'm really lucky that if students have a hole in their schedule, that they can choose to be a media center clerk, but I've kind of turned them into media center ambassadors. So it's really about the people that make this a community.
Lovely. Celeste?
Um, Honestly, I've worked so hard to make the library a second home. And I love how students, staff, even admin, they just feel at ease to come into the space, to talk to me. They feel at ease. The library is kind of like a homecoming for the kids and everyone involved. And so I'm so grateful that they feel that warmth in my space, and they feel comfortable to come, to create, to work, to do, whether it's in the morning at 7:30 before the day even begins, or during passing periods, or that teachers feel an ease to have students who've completed their work to come and just be and think and relax in my space. So it's second home to my kiddos and
Oh,
my.
not me almost crying, Celeste. Oh my God. Like that is so amazing. The both of you, I just respect your work so much. And it is exactly why we are here. So, for my pedagogical nerds out there, if you're not one of those, just close your ears or keep them open. You might learn something. But like Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like that's an eight in what we do in the library. So, like, for students to reach that creative peak, for them to be operating at the most efficient level, the most creative that they can be, they have to have those needs met. They have to feel seen. They have to have their basic needs met. They have to have community involved in some capacity. And so that's really the conversation that we're going to have before we jump into projects, because that's where it starts, is those relationships and that student-centered thought process. So let's dive into our very first question, which is libraries are the heart of the school and students are the heart of our libraries. So when someone pictures the school library, they might think of shelves and quiet spaces. We've all been told to shh, why is it so loud in here? I think I've personally talked to both of you at some point about that. So what do you wish they understood about what the library really is for students in 2026? And Celeste, let's kick it off with you.
I have really made a point to brand, and it has a lot to do with the branding and how I sell my program, is that it's more than books. It is a multimedia hub. It is like a creation hub. Yes, there's moments of quiet, there's moments of, finding the right book for the kids, but I feel in this century, the library has shifted. Its purpose has shifted. It goes beyond the books and it's about community. It's about giving space for students to be creative, to be authentically themselves. And then as a librarian, providing the tools and the outlets for them to do exactly that, giving them opportunities, the experiences for them to feel that the library is more than just a quiet place. And so that's something that I've been working hard this year to tell my teachers whenever they come in because it's just innate in them. They always say, shh, this is a library. And so I have to kind of dispel that and say, it is a library. And it's okay for conversations to be had. It's okay for organized chaos to be happening. Learning is interactive, learning is loud. And I have always been a big believer in that, especially when I was in the classroom as an ELA teacher. So that mindset and philosophy, I definitely transitioned that over to the library. So I'm having to like dispel that, that myth that the library is a quiet space. On the contrary, it's a living, breathing place where noise is welcome.
100%. Betsy, what would you add to this?
Well, I echo all of those sentiments, and we have the same issue, Celeste, that teachers will walk through when they're bringing students for textbooks, which is definitely a part of what we do, but it's not all of what we do. And they'll be like, shh, you need to keep your voices down. And I'll have to remind them, like, no, we are a dynamic space. There's a number of different things happening at any one time. So while right now we do have people in our quieter areas, we've got some people meeting in conversation, collaborating, and then, it's really a place where people can carve out a space for whatever it is they need. So through our ambassador programs, we've had kids say, hey, I don't see a historical fiction section, where's that? And so we've allowed them to have a hand in creating the space so that it does mirror what they want for themselves, and that it's also windows and presenting opportunities for what they want to know more about. So I'm actually sitting in this really unique space. It's our fireside room. It's one of the oldest rooms on campus, and it was the original library. So we do have a little museum that kind of acknowledges all the old technology, and that's another example of how we aren't just books. We celebrate all of the things that have come before us that have helped us tell stories, from old typewriters, analog cameras. We even have some rotary phones, and students love to pick them up. And there's some other items that I'm sure people don't know what they are. But it's just a reminder that we are moving along with this technological evolution, and so it's going to be cool to see what's on that shelf in another 10 years, and we're here to embrace all of that and help weather some of the storms that come with stuff, like some of that stuff, understanding applications of AI, understanding how that can work in concert with research, but also then can make us a little more creative at times. So it's really understanding that we are here to sort of shepherd everyone through what it is that they need to help tell their story.
So y'all are touching on such an important thing about like servant leadership, and like serving from the middle is knowing like all sides to that push and pull of what community needs and how it shapes over time. Betsy, you said something about like it is a dynamic space, which means it ebbs and flows and changes as needs change and things like that. And Anne over here, Celeste, I love how they're capturing the quotes. Anne is the best at this. She said, a living, breathing place where noise is welcome. She captured that from your from all of the wonderful wisdom that you just shed light on. And it's so true. And you both speaking from the heart is just a beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that. Moving into the world of creativity, it's at the heart of what we're celebrating today because librarians really are very creative. We may not often see ourselves as creative because we're living day to day and living and breathing these things. But how has bringing in creative tools like Adobe Express, like into your library, helped amplify student voice, giving them new ways to maybe express themselves that they hadn't had before?
Well, I'll jump in if you don't mind. That
Yeah, go for
for
it.
some of my students who say, "Well, I'm not a reader, so I'm not going to go to the library," I can invite them through their classes to come in and use Adobe Express classrooms where I can set the teacher up for success by having some templates already loaded, some projects already loaded, and then I'm reaching a whole new swath of students who might not normally see themselves here, and they say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh wow, I didn't know this place was also for me, and I didn't know that using technology in this way can help me feel creative." And then they also just feel like, oh wait, maybe I will go pick up a book while I'm here or get involved in something else. So that's one way that Adobe Express has really helped me share that creativity with folks. So like the February challenge, we had the Digital Arts Academy come in, and you would think, well, they have digital arts up in their own wing, but it was cool to change the mood for a day. And they were actually here again this morning doing some board game that was around cues and hues. It's really fun. And so just, again, being a space where other teachers want to come and bring their students is vital for my existence. And so I really believe that the Adobe Express creative tools have allowed me to invite more people in, people that might not normally think of how to incorporate those creative projects in their curriculum.
How about that? Celeste, do you have
Yeah,
addition?
Adobe Express has been that bridge for me. It has bridged me to from the library to the classroom. And so I had mentioned at the beginning that I was transitioning into a new campus. So I was inheriting the space, inheriting the collection, and my number one goal was to build relationships and build rapport with my students and especially my teachers. I wanted that buy-in from my teachers. I wanted them to know that if they come into the library with their classes, purposeful magic can happen, purposeful learning. And Adobe Express was the magic. It was that link that forged these relationships with teachers. So teachers had seen me present before, and so their curiosity was piqued, and they started asking questions. We started planning together, sharing with each other, what are you learning? How can I help you? How can I bring your lesson to a whole nother level? How can I bring your lesson to life and make it engaging for your kids? So Adobe through and through has created those experiences for the teachers that really got them revved up and excited to have their kids creating and boosting their creative confidence, getting them engaged in reading and in books in a completely different way, giving them those hands-on, tangible projects. So super, super happy that Adobe was able to bridge that gap. It's been awesome.
Yeah,
No,
and I
I
just
appreciate that.
I was just going to add to differentiation, right? Some of those kids that
Yes.
are like, well, I can't actually tell my story with words on paper. I want to figure out another way to do it. It's really given some of those kids access to being able to share their voice, and that was something that we were struggling with before.
Equity and access, right, is like the foundation of what we do. I also echo all of this because I wish I had had guided activities when I was still working on building these relationships and instructional partnerships. I think we've all been humanities teachers before we were librarians. So you may feel this way, but like science, when I moved to high school and I had AP Chem teachers or these science STEM teachers, they could smell fear a mile away. And I'm trying to build partnerships with them. I'm like, come work with me and do research, and like all this kind of stuff. If I had had some of these templates where I could be like, here's a lab report. I can do all the tech tool pieces with you and like walk through all the research and you apply the content piece of that. That would have like leveled the playing field for me and a little bit more. That probably could have had our instructional partnerships building a lot quicker than it did in real life. So I really appreciate that. I know time is running short. But I think we cannot move on without talking about the final piece here, and it's advocacy. It is School Library Month, and that is such a big part of what we do for School Library Month is advocate for the libraries, for the students, and why this is so important. So to me, when your students are creating and sharing and leading in the library, that is advocacy in action. The best advocacy you can have is the students who leave your space and like just say how much they loved it. Um, and so, how does centering student voice and creativity help you make the case for why libraries matter?
I think oh,
No, go
uh,
ahead, Celeste. Go for it.
thanks. The students' creations, what they end up coming away with, their projects, I feel is the greatest advocacy for our space. Yes, as librarians, we have, our pie charts and our datas and our numbers and our graphics of how many library visits, how many, books have circulated. But I think their enthusiasm, the confidence, the leadership skills that a tool like this develops, and when they're eager to share out what they've created, that is the greatest advocacy that can happen for us. Rather than us speaking, the student's work speaks for itself and advocates for us greater than any, graphic with, data could. So I feel that, yeah, giving those students agency and voice to create, to share out their learning in these, engaging ways is the greatest form of advocacy.
100%.
Agreed.
Betsy?
Agreed. Yeah. Well, it's so funny because a lot of people will come to me to help them make projects. So, okay, you need to make the program for this ceremony or the invitation for open house. And in fact, I'm sitting in front of a student who was able to step up and help make a composite where they're going to college poster for Avid, and that's something that would never have been in his curriculum. And he was actually using InDesign, which is an Adobe product, right? We're like the gateway to Adobe. And so by seeing students be able to do those things outside of their regular day, that has then let people say, wow, wait, you were able to teach them that in the library. And so that helps with advocacy because they realize, wow, you just don't know what someone's going to find in here and be able to work with to show off their skills and their skill building and their ability to learn very quickly. So for me, it's kind of being able to share what is asked of me as a learning opportunity for whoever's around, right? So again, I think it's really been cool to say like, wow, this is a student that made that in the media center on their free period, and they were able to add value and give back to the community by creating this nice piece of work that somebody else didn't know how to even begin to make.
That all started with that creative confidence that you're helping instill with them. And then the trust that that requires too on your part and on other educators' parts to like really lean into, yes, our students can do this. Yes, they can create it. We just have to give them those opportunities. And I think that's an excellent tie-in to like our first template. So y'all, I know I'm so thankful that you're still with us. Drop us some questions that you may have in the chat about school librarians. We are open books and would love to answer them. So feel free to let us know. But we're gonna let Betsy like lean into her expertise, and she has the coolest project she did in March. So Betsy, without further ado, your Women's History Month.
Well, thank you, Martha. Yeah, so I am really lucky to have some really great display areas in my space, and we had our this lobby area filled with different representations of students over the years. And then, I've been here for 10 years now, so a lot of those students have graduated, and it's been an opportunity to present to students and say, well, what do you want to see on the wall? So we had cycled through the second huge project, and then I thought, all right, well, Women's Month is coming. I just got these cool posters, and it has Rosa Parks, and it has Greta Thunberg, and it has all the women that we are, taught to honor. And I thought, well, wow, those look really cool, but I'm missing the sequoia faces. So, of course, when I think of March, I think of all the phenomenal women around me. And I thought, well, let's do this project. I'll make a template that looks similar to the posters that I was able to buy from another teacher. And let's create them with our own faces. So that did two things. Number one, it gave my students in my ambassador program a chance to create something and go out and honor somebody else, right? By taking the focus off them, they're happy to put somebody else up on the pedestal for a moment. And then an unintended, exciting sort of consequence was that all these students and all these teachers got to chat and have a conversation. So we added a little extra part at the end. I'll come back to that in a sec. So they were having conversations about their favorite books and what's a quote that means a lot to them. And then the next thing you know, the teachers are on these posters up on the wall. And so it was a way to honor their hard work. And they felt really, I think, special for a minute because they thought, wow, wait, I didn't know I was going on the wall. I thought you were just sending your TAs to come chat with me. So I don't know if you can see my screen yet. I think you can. We can see my screen. We are here in my template. I called it Phenomenal Women Around You. And you'll notice that I started it in February, and I originally was sharing out my teachers and their names. So I've anonymized it. And the idea is that you would put the people that you wish to honor in place. So if I were to click use template here, and again, Martha, I'll trust that you'll cut me off if you say, okay, you're taking too long, right? When I click,
I got you, boo.
Okay, great. So when I click use template here, it pops up with essentially, 7 or 8 pages of different color schemes. And if you have a chance to tell your students how to do the color picker and really customize the program, they can have a lot of fun in here making this work for them. So the idea was to put a quality or something at the top. So if I go through the pages, you'll see we had a teacher that focused on engagement. We had somebody else who really embodies inspiration, pride, etc., nourishment. This was our culinary arts teacher. And so, in fact, one of the TAs sitting in front of me right now went out and was able to engage with their teacher and say, hey, Miss So-and-so, I really love your class. I want to make a poster for you for this project that Miss Snow's sponsoring over in the media center. Can you give us a quote? And so it was kind of a fun thing to hear them come report back. And then I gave them a few little tips and tricks on how to get a good photo just on the fly, because we didn't have time to set up a whole portrait system here. So then they would come back, and with my other template that I had for the students and in the classroom, they would go in and they could, simply type in the person's name, add the quality that we would sometimes work together to think, well, what really represents this person? And then they can replace the picture. So that's really what's really exciting about this is when you click replace up here, you'll see, and I went ahead and just put a picture of me out here just to not put anybody else on blast on the live here. Let's see if I'm going to be able to find it in the middle. Sorry, we've got so many. My desktop, of course, is a mess. But anyway, so we'll just pick one of these like old pictures of moi. Again, I'm teaching them a little bit about photography at the same time, about light and whatnot. And then what I love about Adobe Express, right, is that it's one click to remove that background. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I used to spend months on in Photoshop, right? And so you can see here it didn't quite get everything, and so by using the erase button over here, I can get rid of these other parts. Like, so easy, right? And again, I'm not kidding when I say that in digital photography we would spend weeks, cutting out backgrounds and separating with layers, and while I love that, and there's a little part of me that laments that students don't know how to do that as well anymore, some of these kids would never have been in that class, and so they can get to the final project, or final product in Adobe Express, right? So that's just a really quick example of how they can quickly do that. And then the next part that was really fun, and this comes from just being in community on social media and following other librarians whom are out there doing all the things that we wish we could do. There was another person that I met through one of the people in this group, and they had made book keychains. And they took the kids' favorite books and they put them in a little keychain, and I thought, wow, I really want to do that. They're so cool. Like, what a cool thing to hold in your hand. So we decided to turn the posters into the keychains. And this is just a quick, little plasticky thing that we bought off Amazon. You'll see we even put like the February challenge, the flow posters that we did. I started awarding kids some of the best ones by making them a keychain. And here I have all of these teachers, again, who maybe don't always get acknowledged, right? Where they were able to be in a poster on the wall, and then to be able to hand them this as a little memento was just a nice little touch. And one teacher said, wow, I didn't even know I was getting one of those. And so a lot of them have their favorite book on the back, and this is a great one because it's the ceramics teacher, so we gave her the Crucible if they forgot to tell us their favorite books. And then of course we had a lot of requests for Little Women, being that it was Women's History Month, and that's where I think this could be really cool. You can evolve this project for any month. You could take it to the next level by adding the little tchotchke as a reward. We could have really made it thematic and said like it has to be a book by a woman and whatnot. And that's just the cool part, is that you can really make it what you want by thinking outside of the box a little bit, right? So anyways, then what happens is a lot of students would then see other kids like, where'd you get that keychain? And I have a flex period that I can offer. And so we had a whole bunch of students who had never been here before. It was during a week of testing, and I was feeling like, oh, I can't really push out my projects because they can't use their computers after the tests are over. But we have these flex periods that were built in. So a whole new crew came in, and just within a few minutes I said, why don't you honor each other to get up on the wall? That happened to all be Sequoia girls. And so they all made their keychains, and now a couple of them are signing up to be ambassadors next year. And I thought that's such a great way to help them feel seen. They were excited about the project, they were excited to share the project. And then it also just made me think, okay, for my other teachers, we had a person that said like, oh, that would be such a great project for a character profile for the next novel that we're reading. And so again, it's just constantly trying to make people excited through honoring them. And then also, and I mean that sincerely, I really stand in awe of everybody who's still in the classroom in these trying times. And I sometimes have a little bit of out of the classroom guilt that I am not navigating the same pressures. And so anything I can do to uplift those around me when life feels incredibly messy, which it does a lot of the times these days, is really fulfilling. And again, I would not be able to do it if I didn't have my Adobe Classroom that anyone in the school can go access through my Sequoia Storytelling Society. So that's a little bit about that. Should I go more into that, Martha, or how are you feeling about?
Oh my gosh, I have so many things, so many, and I'm like trying to. Okay, first of all, I love that you made something so simple. It feels like it's simple when you look at it, but like it's not. It's not. The way that you can layer on skill after skill after skill here, that it's not just digital skills either. It was like personal skills, like talking to people, like having a real conversation, being a little more empathetic and trying to understand this other person a little bit better so that you can recognize and honor them in that capacity. Like there were so many things that you were touching on that I'm just in awe of and appreciative of. I also know librarians are going to watch this episode back and they're going to be like, okay, I need all of the details. Like, how did you actually physically make them? So if you could describe that in 60 seconds or less, like how did this actually go from Express to like a keychain?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because I think because I come from the digital classroom where we're using InDesign and the bigger Adobe products, which frankly scare people now because they're like, wait, I don't know how to do that. I opened up another document, and so I'm going to a different document right now, and I didn't even realize that we could use grids in Adobe Express. I felt like that was a new feature, and the rulers, right? I'm used to using my bigger tools on the Creative Suite, but I was able to make a new document and then measure out the size of all of the posters, or sorry, the keychain opening where the poster is going to go. And so I was able to create this grid here, and I can share that of course as another template. And then I could drop in the book covers for the other side. In some cases I just did a little promo for the media center, you know, on the back, and then I have a whole page here with the posters of the people, right? So I was able to take the template, right, at the end when everybody had created, and again, I hope I'm not getting too in the weeds, but in a classroom, you can bulk download everything. and then I printed those eventually, but I put them on this template first to size them just right for the keychains, so that then I had my crew help me assemble them and then deliver them, right? So that's the cool part too, is that then the student got to go back to the teacher and say like, hey, I made you this thing. And Martha, the part that you brought up about students talking to their teachers, the funny thing is that so many women were like, oh no, don't take a picture of me, right? And
Right.
I had to end up taking a bunch too, to just say to them, like, we are in this moment and we will never be this young again. So we have to be able to celebrate each other, and all I need is a smile. And it was really it was really touching to see people come around and say like, okay, all right, I'll take a picture. And again, it kind of went back to my photography life of like, it's really just about the lighting. It doesn't matter how much makeup you have on. If we get you in some good light, you're going to look great. And of course, it's all about the connection. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question. And of course, I'm happy to share all of this later, so that people can make their own, drop in their templates, or drop in other projects like the February challenge, etc.
I want to just say thank you. Deb is going to reach out to you. I saw her chat saying, I need the template and supply list. Deb, her Instagram is Snow Photo with the FOTO if you want to reach out to her personally. But you just sparked an idea that I think we should open up our own school, and we're all librarians together and we can all collaborate on things. Because immediately, and this is just totally off script, y'all, because we have a script, but it's totally off script. The way that I would want to have taken that and created like an open call for conversation around Women's History Month at the high school level. I don't think this is something to do with elementary and middle, but like to have that open conversation about why are women so shy, and like being recognized and like living in and owning your space, and like accepting the appreciation. That's a whole separate conversation that is not today. But man, but as a librarian, the flexibility and being able to have those conversations and provide opportunities to bring conversations like that to your students and your teachers, I think is really neat. So Celeste, we have about 10 minutes, and this is absolutely phenomenal because I think you have a unique perspective. You were elementary, now you're middle, and instructional partnerships are such a huge part of what you do. Y'all, if you do not follow her at Celeste Garza Lopez on the Insta. She is on Twitter or X, and I see your newsletters. I see the stuff you're doing with your teachers all the time, and I'm in awe of it, Celeste. So she's chosen one of her favorites.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was transitioning into middle school. So my main goal was to build rapport with students and teachers. And so this particular template is near and dear to me because this was the first one that opened the floodgates of collaboration. This was the one that sparked the conversations among teachers. Go to the library. I did this really cool visual poem. So, so grateful that it was this little fire, this little spark that opened the floodgates of all the teachers wanting to sign up for Library Day. And I just think of the cutesy library shirts that I still wear in middle school. Hooray, it's Library Day. So yeah, this was the assignment that did it. So a teacher came to me. She's like, look, we're teaching poetry. We just finished reading Sandra Cisneros' 11 short story. And I want the kids to create their own poem, but I see that you do all these fancy things. So can you teach my students what it is that you do? And I'm like, yes, bring them on down. So she signed up, and I worked quickly on creating a template because that is the cool thing about Adobe is that you can differentiate. You're going to see that on this particular template, I have a few bells and whistles of adding in a layer of music and then adding voiceover. You don't need to do that if students aren't able, but surprise, surprise, they are. Our kids are digital natives. They took off with this project, and I mean, blew the template out of the water and added in their own pizzazz and their own touch, as we know students do. So what we did was I was co-teaching with the teacher. We were making connections to the text. And so the teacher ultimately wanted them to create their own coming of age poem. And so we had discussions in the library, okay, and oh, it was a sixth grade class. So, what are experiences that you're having now that you've transitioned from elementary to middle? And so we had conversations about the feelings, the emotions, the angst, and we put that into poetry. And what better way than with visual poetry? So I created a class. They joined the class. They had access to the template, and this is something that we actually created together. We created the first stanza together. And it was just a lot, again, loud library. We were shouting out ideas. How did you feel when you were, transitioning to middle school? Scared, nervous. Okay, give me better vocabulary. What's another word for scared or nervous? So they came up with the title Middle School Jitters, and we collabed together to come up with this first stanza. I showed the students how to replace images. So that's the cool thing. If you click on replace here, that's what I love is the Adobe stock photos. There's a million things to choose from. So just taking and walking the students through, and the teacher as well, she was glued, just listening and captivated because she wanted to be able to use this tool with other future projects that she had. So yeah, just taking them through the steps of you don't need to keep that photo there. It can easily be replaced if you click on photos. If you have pictures of things that you want to include, you can upload it. And so let me tell you, when these kids took it to another level, they truly did. They added in videos of themselves, they personalized it, and you really heard the students' passion and voice come through. Some were very sentimental, some were just happy and joyous, but you truly saw the students' voice come through in their creations. So much so that one of the students was so excited about the poem that she created that she wanted to share it on our daily Lion News. And so that's something that, as a librarian, you know how we wear many hats. I'm the producer for our school news. And so she wanted to showcase her work, talk about creative confidence, and talk about advocacy and student work advocating greater than sometimes we ever could on our elevator speech. She wanted to be heard, and it was very personal. And she had her own images and video that she had uploaded to this little template that I had shared. Sorry. And we aired it on the news for everyone to see. And my principal was taken aback and asking, a student made that? What is this? How did they do this? And, oh my gosh, the twinkle in my eye when I said, she learned this in the library. This is what I taught this RLA class. They came in and rather than just doing a pen to paper poem with the cute little drawing, we took it to the next level. We added in graphics, we added in animation, we added in student voiceovers and music. So he was blown away that he then, of course, again, librarians wearing many hats, up in charge of our social media for our campus. He's like, put that on our socials, of course, with parent permission. So, man, that opened the floodgates for other students wanting to share their Adobe Express creations on our school news, on our social media. So we have podcasts that kids have created via Adobe Express. And mind you, these are podcasts that we created in class, and then even podcasts and poems that they just did on their own, passion projects of their own, that were then shared on our school news for everyone to see. And you know how daunting that can be when students share their personal work with their peers, but they were so proud. And so all of that from this template. This template was the genesis. So teachers, librarians, anyone can use it. It can be differentiated. If it's too overwhelming to add your voiceover, you don't need to do that. If you don't want to add the music because that's just too much and you're a newbie, no worries, no need to add that. But again, push your kids because they'll surprise you. They will do that and tenfold. And come up with beautiful, sentimental, gut-wrenching, thought-provoking work from the minds of, in my case, middle school kids. So yeah, this is a wonderful template. It's sentimental to me because this is what, again, built that bridge. Adobe helped build the bridge from the library to the classrooms, and all from a little template of visual poetry.
Okay, if you are not a librarian, you may not understand what Celeste just told us. It is the hardest thing starting a new school. Imagine you're a first-year teacher all over again, and you're going in and you're trying to do day one. But this time you're trying to build relationships with all of the teachers in your building. 30, 40, 50 teachers, however many you might have in your building. And they're all looking at you and they're like, what can you do for me? What makes you so special? And it's not in a mean way, just, you know, we have a lot of ownership over our classrooms. We have a lot of ownership over our curriculum, and we don't want our time wasted, period. That's human nature, but like, especially in education, I've got XYZ I have to get done. So for them to trust you, Celeste, and then for it to like kick off and succeed in such a phenomenal way. I mean, obviously, because you're amazing. Like, and y'all, if you hear that template, we posted it in the chat. That's Celeste voiceover on here because she didn't want to share student privacy. Just, we want to honor that. But she's the best read aloud voice I've ever heard. And so the way that she's saying it out loud is just amazing. But I just, kudos to you is what I'm trying to say. That was a lot to say. Kudos, Celeste, because I know that feeling. It's scary. And I'm so thankful that it worked out. And the fact that your kids all wanted to be on the morning news like that and like represent their work when nobody wants to be on the news. Like that was, I don't know how y'all's experience was, but they were like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on there. Don't make, like Betsy was saying, don't take a picture of me. Don't make me do this. So that was really cool. And you did that for them. So yay. Okay, y'all, we are drastically over what our script time frame was, and that's okay. That's okay. We had some lovely conversations, but I think I just want to give a shout out to Amanda Hunt, who was supposed to be with us today. She has a lot of the things going on. She's a very needed, wanted woman. We did have a video for her. Unfortunately, I don't know if we'll have enough time to play her full video. So I promise you, I will share that out on socials. If you'll follow us, we'll share all of her things as well. But she has done something phenomenal with something called Unicon. So she did a Comic-Con with her district. And it started off as a student-led initiative where they wanted just to have their own little manga like hour in the library, and it snowballed because we all know how that goes. Like when you say yes and the kids actually take ownership over it instead of just letting it sit there, the yes and can become a snowball effect. And that's what Unicon became. It became a Comic-Con at her school level and then the district level. And if you'd like to connect with her, she is at the Next Gen Librarian across all of her socials, and she shares all of these amazing things. But without further ado, we do have, if you would like to advocate for your library this month, we have put together a very special template that I am going to pull over here. There we go. And I'm putting Jacob on blast, so hopefully we can navigate to it. There we go, perfect. But we do have this phenomenal template for you. You can do it yourself, obviously, but if you have students that you would feel comfortable and want to empower to share what they think about the library and what their most impactful projects have been, this could be a really cool template for them. You can use one or all of the pages. It's totally up to you. We're going to post that template over here in the chat in just a second. But it starts off with, I am a creative librarian, and we broke it down into the 4 basic buckets. Like, who am I? Like, what am I doing in action? How I promote reading or literacy? What brings joy to our space? We often talked about our student-centered learning today. And then what's our most creative library program? And then what is our most creative space or programs? And obviously, these are things that I've taken out of context 2 years ago. This is what I was doing, but feel free to make this your own. Everything that Betsy and Celeste just taught you, you can replace images, replace it with a video, make it more interactive than just a static image. You can animate everything that's on your page too by clicking the edit and the animation button, and just kind of make it your own. And if you give it to students, guess what? They're going to be able to figure out and make it even better than what we can make it. But yeah, that template is coming your way soon, y'all. And then the last 60 seconds we have together today, Celeste and Betsy, if you guys want to give them a huge shout out again over in the chat, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you have done for your students, for your teachers, for this community. We have a very strong creative librarian community because of not only you two, but Amanda and Deb is over in the chat, and everybody that comes together and supports one another. So thank you so much. If you would also like to join our ACE Leader and ACE Innovator communities, starting off with joining ACE Leader, join ACE Leader. There we go. We would love to have you join in all of the fun. And you can catch us every Friday morning on Education Edition with Adobe Live at 11 a.m. PT and 2 p.m. ET. Celeste, Betsy, I love both of you so much and have learned so much from you guys. Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful start to your spring break.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy
Bye,
spring
y'all.
break.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.